Okay, let's get
we have to talk about Macintosh again?
No. This video. Hi, everyone.
That's Adrian. I'm Philip.
Yes, right. Audio Excellence Canada. This video, we're going to do Parasound A21 versus the JC5. A21 Plus, I should say. So it's been a while since we did a Parasound video. We've been meaning to, at least I've been meaning to do more videos on Parasound because it's a brand that's near and dear to my heart. But we just never really seemed to get around to it. So finally I said, let's do this one. So the reason I chose this, the A21 Plus versus the JC5, is that superficially, they look very, very similar. They're almost the same size.
Well, they're identically the same size. It's
Power-wise, one is 300 watts. The other one is 400 watts into 8. 500 into 4 ohms versus 600 watts into 4 ohms. 1,000 watts mono into 8 ohms for the A21 Plus versus 1,200 watts mono into 8 ohms for the JC5. So I suspect, although I've never verified this, but I suspect that essentially the JC5 is the A21 Plus supercharged on steroids. I suspect.
I think it's the other way around because JC5 has John Curl's participation in it. Right. JC. Yep. And the A21
they're designed by John Curl, according to the factory
JC5
website.
is designed by John Curl. Right. He's directly involved in A21 Plus or the A21, the previous model, are like a trickle down of what that JC unit is. And I don't think he's directly responsible for it.
It says it's designed by him.
They would take the circuit, but there are some major differences.
Yeah. So I figured, well, let's do this comparison and see. So here are some specs, not very many, because they have a great website if you're interested in specs and features, tons and tons and tons of stuff. A21 Plus is $3,150 US. JC5 is $5,995, so almost $6,000. So basically, not quite double, but close. One is 71 pounds, the other one's 73 pounds, as I said earlier. 300 watts into 8 ohms, 500 into 4, 1,000 watts into 8 ohms, mono bridged for the A21 Plus. And for the JC5, it's 400 watts into 8, 600 into 4, and 1,200 watts mono into 8 ohms. They've both been around now for about a year or two. We've had ours Parasound came back into Canada. How long ago was it? About a year and a half ago?
Maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Because
when the bill started. Yeah. Oh, it was in the just before the last Toronto audio show. Because Nabil.
It came after the first Audio Fest.
Yeah. So
it's been here for just over 2 years then.
Has it been 2 years?
Because they couldn't get it into that first Audio Fest. It wasn't ready.
Right.
And then we saw shipments in December.
No, we did get. Remember, we got the integrated amp for the show.
Yes.
Yes.
Peter McGrath used
with the Yvettes.
With the Yvettes in that small
sound.
room. He used the Halo, the Hint 6.
Yeah, integrated.
And it was really fabulous.
Magical sound.
Drove it pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
That unit got pretty hot.
Yeah. So anyway, Philip, what do you think?
Well, so this is going to be the first.
Well, let's talk about the setup. What system?
No. See, I've heard it in so many different rooms in the store. Okay. I didn't listen to it this time. I didn't have to.
No, okay.
I know what those units sound like.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's see if we have the same impressions. As usual, we never discuss our opinions. By the way, before we go any further, please like the video, thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification, put comments in the comments below. This really helps the algorithm find us. And again, we raise money using the YouTube video, and we match it, and we donate it to Salvation Army. So we need your help. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so there's lots of good reviews of both units available online and in printed media. I don't really know how much more I can add. I do find, so they have the same family sound, which is not much of a sound in my opinion at all. In other words, they're very neutral in a way that is very good. The thing I can say with the greatest enthusiasm is that definitely for the kind of money that you're looking at, it's very, very, very good value. It's substantially well made. It has lots of connectivity.
You're struggling to find good things to say about
it. Well, I mean, this is the issue with this type of amplification, because it is like an everyman amplifier. It is good in every situation. It is not great. I would say the A21 Plus is not great, but it is very, 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 very good. And it doesn't have much character in like that when you listen to it. It's screaming at you, I do this really well, I do this really well. It actually does everything kind of very well. You know, it'll drive difficult loads. You can connect lots of different kinds of speakers to it. It's very powerful, but it's subtle. So the A21 Plus, I've sold this amp to quite a few clients, and they've all been amazed by it. Now, maybe their perspective is not the same as what we would have here, because we are exposed to many, many more, much, much more expensive items, including the JC5. So when you're looking at the A21 Plus, it'll do everything. If you've never owned anything in that price range, if you've only dealt with like little British integrated amps, this is a revelation. Even the 23 Plus is pretty amazing. But when you compare it to, and I was comparing it to Macintosh 452 at the time, and also I guess 462. We've done it with both of those amps. It's not as good as the Macintosh, but you wouldn't expect it to be. It's a fraction of the price, and it doesn't have transformers. So what you get is that you put it into your system, it'll make, compared to any other little $1,000, $2,000 integrated amp, this thing will just blow it out of the water. It's that good. And at the same time, there's more room for improvement because you get that in the JC5. So I did one demo, and I played them the A21 Plus, which they really liked, but they wanted to hear more. So I said, okay, come back tomorrow. I'll put the JC5 on. The reason I had to say that was because we hadn't powered up the JC5 in some time, and it takes a little bit of a warm-up. It definitely improves after 3-4 hours. And you need to basically, well, it's on standby, but having it on for an hour definitely helps. And the big reason is, and there's a big difference between the two amps. The circuitry might be very similar, but the JC5 operates in Class A for at least 20 watts. So most of the time when you listen to it is in Class A, and that is the big difference. So the JC5 gets quite warm, but it has all those kind of sweet attributes of Class A amplification. And it's even more beautiful, and that's one characteristic that you'll hear right away over the A21 Plus. The A21 Plus is more neutral because it doesn't impart this kind of sweetness that the Class A amplification or topology would contribute to the way the amplifier works. I believe that is the big difference. If you want something that is inherently kind of like very musical, very involving, fairly engaging, then the JC5 will do more of that. The A21 Plus has some of it, but you won't perhaps be as captivated by it as the JC5. The JC5 has great depth. I found it comparable to the Macintosh 452 at the time, and I would even say it's a little bit warmer sounding than the 462. It's not quite as insightful or as fast, but certainly it is in the same league. And again, it's quite a bit less money.
Analogize it to, say, the car world, because so many of our clients are familiar with the cars. What would you say in terms of car?
This is like
world?
a Dodge Challenger or
Really?
a Ford Mustang.
Cool.
Compared to a BMW or a Mercedes.
No, which is which?
So the Parasound,
so say for example,
is definitely a muscle car.
So let's call the A21 Plus. What would you say?
Six-cylinder Dodge Challenger or whatever that car. Or
how about like a Honda? No,
it's not really a Honda.
Okay,
because
early on you said an everyman type of a product.
Well, I believe that Detroit Iron is still an everyman product.
Okay.
A Honda is not. It's more like a college crowd.
No.
Yes.
Honda,
yes.
Honda's like everywhere. It's like family cars. Come on.
It's a Toyota.
It's a family car too.
It's like a big Camry.
Okay.
Camry is a very nice car.
It is a very nice
You
car.
know, I've never owned one, but I've driven them before.
Okay.
So, I mean, what did you hear?
No. So let's finish your analogy first. So then, if that's the case, what would the JC5 be? Again, this is just so that people can sort of get an idea of
Corvette.
Corvette. Wow. Okay.
Seriously, Corvette.
No, I believe you. I'm just see, for me, this is how really good analogies work, right? It helps you put things in perspective and frame it, because if let's say you're new to the audio world and we're talking about these kinds of things, it's hard to understand. But maybe you know about cars, and so Philip is saying Corvette versus a Dodge Challenger
Or a Mustang.
or Camry.
Well, a souped up, maybe the sport version of the Camry.
So it's very substantial as far as he's concerned.
And we haven't listened to the JC1s yet, because
No.
they were not out at the time when we ordered our demos.
the new one.
The new one. But that's basically two JC5s set up in
monoblocks.
I imagine that would be like a Callaway type Corvette or something
Oh,
like
my
that.
God.
Or maybe one of the cars that our dear departed friend Derek made.
Yeah.
He made those fancy Mustangs.
Dutch Motorsport Mustangs. Yeah,
So
those are cool.
I think that analogy is very comparable. It does not have the refinement of...
So, but if that's the case, then what you're essentially saying is that the JC5 is substantially better, not just a little bit improved.
It's substantially better. So when you listen to the JC5, and especially at lower volumes, it has no struggle. I'm not to say the A21 has struggle, but the A21 is a bit flatter sounding. It's not dimensional. The JC5 just has way more depth, and it has much more micro detail. So, you know, when you listen to the music, you hear things that are perhaps much lower in the mix than you normally would. And so it's fully resolving. It's really quite amazing. Parasound champions itself as a value leader, and you know they put the money into making a product that does that has the performance without and it allows the dealers to charge substantially less compared to other things.
You know what? We should do a shootout. I mean, we've done some in the past, but in the store, we've got Name, we've got PS Audio, we've got Parasound, we've got Hagel, and then in the lower price range, it's hard to find a Macintosh, but we've got Macintosh. So we got 5 products under 10 Gs, right? Under
so
10
can we
Gs.
order one of those like MI124s?
Those are really meant for custom and multi-channel theater.
But the 4-channel one, but they have the 7-channel one too.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's the MI347.
They're based on Class D technology.
Now you know your big client.
Yeah. I don't think he has one. Oh no, he did. He ordered one. Yeah. So anyway, one of these days we should do a shootout. Like pick a $6,000 amp and let's just compare everything and see what. Although Hagel doesn't have a power amp in that price range, they have integrateds. But maybe we can just compare.
They have a multi-channel that you can configure.
Yeah.
Because it has separate cards. You can order.
Maybe we'll just compare the house sounds, because every manufacturer in this case does have a sort of a house sound. But that'd be interesting, because we got all these different brands, right? And it'd be interesting to see what our thoughts are. I mean, we offer all these partly because over the years we just collected all these brands, because at the time we thought they were among the best, and we still do think that they're among the best. But for different applications, like Name generally doesn't have a lot of power, but it's so toe tapping, it's so engaging.
It does have power,
right? It's got current, but like if you like to play it really hard into a tough load, it's probably not the amp for you. On the other hand, and normal to lower volumes with a decent efficient speaker, it's great amp. PS Audio, I'm still trying to wrap my mind, but that's another video on what the house sound is, if there is a house sound. I'm not sure that there is.
The 2 amps are so different. Plus, you get the S300.
Exactly.
Which
and
is
then the monoblocks.
one ice power module. And the monoblocks actually use a different ice power module.
And then they've got the BHK, which...
Well, there's also the 12,000.
Right, which sounds different again.
The M12,000.
I don't think that there actually is a house sound.
Yeah.
At least not with the amps.
Bascom King did not design any of the Stellar stuff.
Quite different. So it'd be interesting to do a shootout. Anyway, so my take, very much similar to Philip, which is going to make this boring. So Jerry very kindly set it up for me because I hadn't all this time never done a comparison between the two of them. So I asked Jerry, please connect it for me. So he set it up in what we call the Wilson room. So we have the Alexia, and Jerry hooked up the Parasound preamp. Which preamp is it? The P6 preamplifier.
The only one they make.
Yeah, and then the A21 Plus.
It costs less than some of the cables we use.
That's right, A21 Plus, and then the JC5. So first up was the A21 Plus, and connected to the Alexia, and I thought, wow, this is really nice. Clean, open, very transparent, very airy, all the things that I do like, very engaging. And after about 4 or 5 cuts, I thought, well, let me, if this is nice, let me see what the JC5 sounds like. Hooked up the JC5, turned it on, and I thought, oh my God, what was I thinking? The A21 Plus is broken compared to this. This is nice. This is great. This is wonderful. It can't be. Maybe I connected everything wrong. Let me check it again. By the way, speaking of connection, a little thing. Now, is it the amp or the preamp? They've got, the preamp. The Parasound preamp. If you buy a Parasound preamp, be very, very careful. So the connection convention, if you will, is that when you face a product, right, you're looking at the face and you bend over to connect, left is on your left, right is on your right. But not with the Parasound preamp. With the Parasound preamp, left is on the right and right is on the left. So be very, very careful you don't make that mistake.
It's not just Parasound. We had a product come in for repair, which is an old Macintosh, the 2105.
Yeah.
The outputs on it are reversed on the back from normal convention.
Right.
And what happened was that our client told us that there was a problem on the left channel. And our technician, Roger, of our service, he checked it out. He checked the left channel. It's dead quiet. And he goes like, "What? There's nothing wrong with it." Because he had rebuilt it originally because there was some, that's the original complaint. And when he checked the left channel and with the left meter, it would show that it was, his repair was quiet, everything was good. It was very controversial because obviously the client was not very happy, and then it came back from service for the 3rd time, and Roger said there's nothing wrong with it, and I hooked it up to make sure, and then I noticed the right meter was doing this, just having noise issues, and I was hearing it in the right channel because I hooked up everything correctly based on what it was printed on the back, and then I called my client and said it's the right channel. Oh, because Roger never checked the right channel after he put it all back together, so there was something wrong with the right channel. And what the client did was he hooked it up conventionally, and he thought it was the left channel. He never verified it with the meters.
Yeah.
So that can happen.
Yes, but for the most part, I think since the 80s, most products, obviously there's going to be a few, but most products, when you look at the front and you bend over to connect, left is on the left, right is on the right. Now, with Parasound, the amps are set up that way. So your left channel's on the left, right's on the right. But on the preamp, it's not. So be careful. So let me talk about also some other issues in terms of connectivity. I love how Parasound does put a lot of features on the back of the amp, right? You have a switch for trigger. You can have a setting for whether you want low, just a little bit of low voltage and it'll trigger the amp, or you want a bit more, so in other words, less sensitive, so then it'll trigger it on. You can have a switch for mono or stereo. You have a switch for balanced or unbalanced. You have gain. Problem is, in a store like ours, where things get moved all the time, and when you move things, sometimes switches get bumped, and you have to be very careful to make sure that when you do connect everything up, that you check all these switches to make sure that you've connected everything correctly and that the switches are in the right position. Otherwise, so for example, in the A21 Plus, and same with the JC5, if you've moved the gain dial on one channel, but you didn't move it on the other channel, one channel could be louder than the other. Maybe not by much, but it's there. And if that's the case, your image will shift and you'll be thinking maybe something wrong with your ears, or maybe you're not paying attention and you think this is the way it should be. So be very, very careful. Having said all of that, love the JC5. fantastic amplifier. And it may be like what Philip alluded to. We get exposed to so much good stuff that we get spoiled, so that when we listen to something that is really good, but not necessarily as good as we are used to, it may be that we're not as fascinated by it. And so if that's the case, I apologize ahead of time. I think the A21 Plus is in fact very, very good, but the JC5 is stellar.
It's special.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's not by any means inexpensive.
No.
So it's a substantial investment in your audio.
Yeah, $6,000.
Yeah,
it's double the price. But maybe it's just, in our case, we're so used to that kind of expectation that where the A21 Plus is really good for lots and lots of people.
If they only put power meters on it.
What's that?
If they only put power
If
meters
they only
on
put
it.
Yes, and then we'll really
Hey,
like
the Nolan Luxman stuff has it now.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I agree. I think more products should have meters. Big ones,
So
not little
I remember
tiny
the
ones.
first amp I ever purchased was the NAD 3020.
Yes,
which is
I had
stellar.
one. I had a 3120.
Yeah. So I bought
Wait,
that.
wait. Which one came out first? The 3020 came out first.
3020 came out
That's-
first.
that's what made the NAD,
Yes,
yeah.
that's what changed everything. They had a new logo. They had that little amp, and for $300 at the time, Canadian, maybe $300 US, but everybody had one of these, and
Yeah.
you can still get them. They still sell for about, in good condition, $150, $200.
That's all.
Yeah, but they were only a couple $100 back in the day. What the thing I loved the most about it was that it had that power meter. It had those LEDs. So because it tells you, it keeps you
I don't
involved.
recall.
Yeah, it had one line of LEDs, and it would go all the way up to 40 watts. And I remember pinning it all the time. It never shut down.
Remember when what made them so unique was back then the competition was all the big Japanese receivers, and they had all these buttons and so on. And here's this little black faceplate with a volume control, and that's basically it. There was very little on the front faceplate, and that's what distinguished and their essential.
And it would drive apogees.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But the point was that they could say, we've designed it so it's really simple to use, and all the money essentially goes to the circuit. At least that was the pitch. I don't know if that was true. But speaking of meters and buttons and LEDs, I remember, again, back before I became enamored with audio, on Yonge Street, there were a lot of audio stores. Back when Yonge Street was actually cheap enough that stores could actually be on Yonge Street. And there were a lot of audio stores, and my brother and I would walk up and down Yonge Street between Dundas and just north of Clore. Yeah, north of College. And there were a lot of audio stores. You had Majestic. Remember Majestic?
Majestic Sound, Hi-Fi Express.
That's right.
There was
Better
sound-
audio, or better sound.
Straight Gain
Great
was-
Metropolitan Sound, Straight Gain. My God,
Yeah.
Peter Chu. So we would walk up and down, up one side and then down on the other side, just visiting all the audio stores. And there was a store that had these Wharfdale speakers. And they were big, ginormous things. And when you played them, these LEDs would light up.
What, on the speaker?
On the speaker, yeah, on the front, if I remember correctly. And that was the first time I actually saw
had a built-in
speakers.
power meter?
Yeah, with not meter, but LEDs. They would just light up.
Oh,
and
it's
it was
a meter
very,
of a
very
sort.
cool.
It's not a VU meter. It's
Very, very cool. Yeah. And I think that was the first time I saw Dali back in the 80s. Dali had these speakers also on Yonge Street. Yeah,
Oh.
Yonge. Apparently the world's longest street.
It is the world's longest street continuously. So it goes from Lake Ontario
Yes.
all the way north of, I guess it goes into North Bay.
Just before the North Pole.
Well, it's hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
It's continuous. So you could actually do a walkabout and still be on the same street. Could take you 2 weeks to walk the street.
So anyway, how do we get into this? So
Because of power meters.
That's right.
And NAD.
yeah. So to wrap up, I do like the A21 Plus. I think it's really, really good. And certainly for the money in Canada, a heck of a buy. And one of these days we'll do a shootout and do a proper
I
comparison.
think that the P6
Yeah.
with the A21 Plus gives you a very conventional looking, kind of like classical audiophile-ish stack. that's comparable in sonic quality and usability to
And especially if
our other champion products, which is the Hagel.
Yeah, and especially if you need a lot of power. You like to play metal, you like to play really loud volumes, or your speakers are very difficult to drive, and you don't have necessarily a huge amount of budget. I think it's a great option. It's built really well, lots of current, so you wouldn't be able to go wrong. But certainly the JC5 just takes it to a whole different level. And as far as I'm concerned, if you can afford it, between the two, I'd go with the JC5.
Well, definitely, stretch your budget a little bit. You won't be sorry.
It's not a little bit, it's double.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it's
much
less than the Macintosh.
For me, it's worth it. It's worth it.
It's much less than the Macintosh.
I'd buy a Mac, though. I'd buy a Mac.
Well,
but that's just me. It'll be interesting, though, is that if you took, for example, the P6 with the A21 Plus, right?
Yep.
And then you compared it. Maybe we should do that in a shootout. Compare that to a Hagel equivalent.
Well, it's less money than the 390, but it's more than the 490, and you can't get separates from Hagel for that price range.
No, so let's say it slots between the 190 and the 390 Hagel, right? So we should do a shootout and see now that the 390 is back in stock again. It would be interesting to see a comparison between.
Yeah, we
the
have
two.
one of them. It's not like back in stock. It's
the distributor says February he'll get a bunch of stock, but better than nothing. We had to wait
if you
months.
guys are in our kind of selling area out there, there's one 390 available.
That's right, for now.
For now.
Anyway, we're told to wrap it up. So again, like the video or don't like the video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, doesn't matter. Comments below. Agree with us or don't agree with us. Say what you think.
And if you say snarky stuff in those comments, I will snark you back.
Yeah.
But otherwise, thank you very much for all that you say.
Adrian from Audio Excellence Canada. Philip, we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.